The South African government's responded to US President Donald Trump's correspondence regarding South African tariffs. In the letter, Trump said South African exports to the United States will be subject to a 30% tariff. He added that should South Africa raise tariffs on US imports, then he would raise the tariffs by the same amount. The South African presidency says diplomatic efforts towards a more balanced and mutually beneficial trade relationship with the United States will continue. It's also welcomed the US's commitment to modify tariffs once negotiations between the two countries have been concluded. Well, joining me now to discuss the latest tariff developments is Kaamil Alli, spokesperson for the Minister of Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, Parks Tau. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Juliet, and thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon to your viewers.
So we've seen the presidency's response to this letter from President Donald Trump. What does the Department of Trade and Industry say about this letter? Has there been any official response?
Well, Juliet, we have opted to communicate through the presidency, hence the announcement came from the president's office. We are, as the department, continuously engaging with counterparts in the United States on the details of the announcement. You would recall that in May, President Ramaphosa led a delegation to the United States where we presented our framework trade deal to the US. And we have until date, not until at least before the letter, have not received a substantive response to that framework deal. It is our belief that given there's still a window of opportunity for negotiations with the United States, that we will be able to conclude a deal that's mutually beneficial to both South Africa and the US.
What has Minister Parks Tau said about America's interpretation of the balance of trade?
Well, I think the data is available, and the minister has reinforced that the interpretation of the trading data from the US is not the same between South Africa and the United States. The bottom line is that the US sees a trade deficit of $9.1 billion, which we in South Africa don't agree with. We believe that figure to be a lot lower at just $1.2 billion US. And that is, at the end of the day, what the data tells us. Having that, taking that into consideration, the tariff line should be a lot lower than the 30% that the United States has proposed.
Now, does the minister plan on suggesting reciprocal tariff increases?
Well, we believe that a reciprocal response is not necessarily beneficial for either South Africa or the United States. It is in the interests of both countries for us to reach a resolution that makes sense. 30% is quite a high tariff wall, considering that South Africa accounts for just 0.4% of total US imports. One would then have to have consideration as to why the tariff line is so high. South Africa's position is that we view the United States as a key trading partner. And as a result, we don't want to create antagonism between us, but rather find a way that we're able to resolve this without exacerbating the very high tariff wars that have been ongoing in the global context.
What has the minister said about trade with BRICs plus countries?
I think that this is where the opportunity lies, and the minister has been quite emphatic about his belief that South Africa should be diversifying its trading partners. BRICS provides an excellent opportunity for South Africa to diversify its export basket and our trading partners. So while we maintain that South Africa is not an anti-American country, we would look to diversify our trade exports to other countries, and BRICS forms an important foundation for us to expand our trade relationship with particularly countries from the global south and other African countries as well.
And lastly, at the US-Africa Summit in Angola last month, South Africa learned of a template with which the US wishes to engage sub-Saharan countries on trade matters. Has the minister seen this template? What does it contain?
Unfortunately, we have not yet had sight of this template. The details surrounding the template are unknown to us at this stage. As you indicated, we only became aware of the template at the meeting in Angola. It also begs the question whether we need to use the template as the basis for the negotiations going forward, or if we will use the framework deal that we presented to them in May. We are prioritizing an urgent meeting with our counterparts in the US to clarify these issues so that we and our teams, negotiating teams, can get to work in earnest to try and reframe how we present a renewed deal to the US.
I'm just going to squeeze in one more question. How confident is the minister that we'll be able to reduce those tariffs?
The minister is quite confident. If we look at the way in which we've negotiated with the US, it's been quite transparent. We've not really hidden any cards away or anything like that. And we also believe in an evidence-based approach, in utilizing the data that's available to us to ensure that we present our case in a firm manner. So we still remain confident that we'll be able to reach a resolution before the 1st of August.
Thank you. That was Kaamil Alli, spokesperson for the Minister of Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, Parks Tau.